What's going into you?
I can't think what you mean.
Now, if you can explain why you've been acting so weird, it's like you've been possessed by a sprightly, hopeful version of you. It's excited about the world. Gone is your regular pessimism, I suppose.
Well, something has happened actually, but if I tell you, you'll never stop mocking me for it.
I think that's an unfair assumption to make. Why don't you just tell me so I can judge whether I should mock you or not?
Well, it all sounds very silly really, but I think it's affected me a lot. Every time my mind wanders, it returns to that evening, as I walk through the woods. It's something I've started doing recently, to get away from everything here for a little while. It's a solitude I crave, and it's a solitude I receive.
This time was different, however. There is always a certain quiet in the woods. No buzz of the road or shouts of the playing children. This time, the silence seemed almost augmented, with my footsteps seeming amplified as if I were in an echo chamber of sorts. This gave me more space to ponder the day, and as I drifted into my own consciousness, I was roused with a wild, inhuman shriek.
It was probably a fox, you know. Their screams are really human-like. It's uncanny.
I edged nearer, with great caution. I began to fear the worst, that someone had been attacked by a fox or a wolf and was dying out there, alone and unaided, but this was unfounded. As I approached, I began to make out something that was unquestionably abnormal. It was certainly not a fox, nor was it a human. The poor creature lay in a bed of thorns, its colossal wings torn and bloody, the delicate, fine membranes turned jagged and irregular by injury. Its figure was humanoid, but I did not see it for long. As soon as it saw me, it draped its broken wings over its form as if in shame. The shriek turned to a sorrowful whimpering. Never before have I seen a creature so vulnerable and in need of help. The whimpering sounded close to the cries of a child, and I found it almost too much to bear. I tried my hardest to untangle it from the thorns that bound it, but with every touch it flinched, and I was terrified that in trying to help this creature, I was further wounding it. I finally managed to free it of its bracken shackles, and the whimpering subsided. I stood ahead of it, looking on with a curious sorrow. The whimpers turned to laboured, husky breaths, and eventually the silence of the woods returned once more. The ambient sounds of the forest, the cacophony of birds, the movement of the trees and faint whistle of the wind seemed to hold their breath, and the phenomenon that stood before me unfurled its great wings. I stood back and felt my previous hesitancy be drained from me and began to drink in the stupefying glory of what remained before me. It took me in its winged embrace momentarily, and I felt at ease, at peace, for the first time in months, maybe years. The fatigue and weariness of the day passed and was replaced with a comfortable optimism. It was only after this that I realised I should probably be scared. But I felt no fear. It never even crossed my mind at the time. I was too engrossed in the moment, unaware of the significance of it all in any realistic sense.
Is that all of it?
Following the embrace, I don't remember too much. All that I do remember is the beating of its wings, and the creature soaring into the canopy above, beyond my line of sight.
I don't ask you to believe me. In fact, I'm assuming that you won't. I didn't tell you to convince you, really. Just to tell someone. When something like this happens to you, it feels like it must be shared, for it's too beautiful for me to keep to myself. I hope that you understand this. It really would be lovely to see it again, one day, whatever it was. I'd like to tell it how much that day meant to me.